watch those videos with Diddy and Justin Bieber talking.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Bieber just looking at his body. I ain't no body language expert, but he just seemed...
The energy shifted dramatically when the doors swung open and Justin Bieber walked in. Gasps rippled through the room like a shockwave. No one had expected him to show up, let alone take the stand. For days, the media had speculated about potential witnesses, tossing out names with wild abandon. But Bieber's? Not once. His presence was a masterstroke, a calculated surprise that left everyone stunned. He moved with quiet purpose, head held high, eyes focused. Gone was the pop sensation known for flashy outfits and tabloid headlines. This was a different Justin Bieber. Measured, composed, dressed in a crisp, understated suit that whispered intention rather than screamed style. The crowd watched in awe, their whispers swelling into a sea of speculation. He looked like a man, with a mission, not a celebrity trying to make a statement, and then all eyes turned to one man, Diddy. The music mogul, usually unreadable and cool under pressure, visibly froze. His eyes flicked toward Bieber, widened slightly, and then narrowed as he leaned in to whisper something urgently to his lawyers. Whatever confidence he had entered the courtroom with began to slip. His team scrambled, their composed facade cracking as they scrambled through notes and exchanged hushed words. The element of surprise had landed perfectly. Even the judge raised an eyebrow before quickly regaining composure and calling the court to order. What made Bieber's appearance so monumental wasn't just who he was, it was the weight of shared history. For years, he and Diddy had been linked. Diddy, the seasoned kingmaker of the music industry, Bieber, the golden child whose meteoric rise had, at least in part, passed through Diddy's influential orbit. To see that very same protege walk into court and head straight for the witness stand, it felt like betrayal, revelation, and reckoning all wrapped in one shocking moment. The audience leaned forward, hanging on every step Bieber took.
And you have everybody telling me how awesome I am at all times, and
It's like taking a kid and putting a kid in a room full of nothing but sweets.
Right.
And just saying, I'll be back in 2 days.
Exactly. I just want people to understand, the psychology behind why I potentially could have problems in my life.
So a lot of people watching this have probably seen this swirl on social media about the connection between Justin Bieber and Diddy. This has been going on actually for years, where people have wondered what kind of a relationship did they have, and really what people are asking is, did Diddy Justin Bieber?
Okay, I had to trim that. He said people are asking, did Diddy Justin Bieber? I had to trim that out. Just letting you know, I don't know what else is going to be said in here. But yeah, that had been the rumor. That had been speculated. And a lot of people are just trying to figure out, is that tied to the connection of him spiraling? And it just seemed like he's very depressed out there in public. And it seemed to be heightened when all the news about Diddy came out. So that was a connection.
No, it can't be, because one of the biggest questions in the Diddy trial is what other celebrities will be named, who participated in the freak-offs and who wit.
There were no theatrics from him, no grand gestures or celebrity bravado. Just a steady march to the stand, a firm nod to the judge, and a hand placed on the Bible as he took the oath. His voice was clear and controlled as he confirmed his identity and affirmed his willingness to testify. This wasn't the boy fans had watched grow up in the spotlight. This was a man carrying himself with the gravity of someone who knew the consequences of his words. His calm didn't just command the room, it redefined it. Meanwhile, Diddy sat unnervingly still, the only signs of strain being the constant adjustment of his watch and the flick of his fingers against the table. He wasn't just watching Bieber, he was bracing for impact. Whatever relationship they once had, mentor and mentee, ally and protege, was gone. What remained was tension, and unspoken truths about to surface. Legal experts later called Bieber's appearance a brilliant move by the prosecution. By keeping his name off the public witness list, they caught Diddy's defense completely off guard. And it worked. The moment Bieber walked in, the atmosphere shifted. You could feel it. The subtle panic from the defense team, the growing murmur of reporters in the gallery, the sharpened focus of the jury. But the biggest question hovered in the air like smoke. Why Bieber? What did he know? For years, whispers had circulated about Diddy's exclusive parties and the tight circle that surrounded him. Hollywood gossip always painted them as legendary, but also shrouded in secrecy. Rumors of what went on behind closed doors had followed Diddy for decades, but no one had ever dared say much publicly. Now, with Bieber on the stand, it seemed those whispers were about to become testimony. He hadn't even spoken about the events in question yet, but the courtroom already felt changed. His mere presence confirmed that this trial was about more than business deals or industry disputes. It was about truth, legacy, and accountability. As Bieber sat down, silence blanketed the room. You could sense it, the stillness before a storm. People stared between him and Diddy, waiting to see which man would flinch first. Bieber looked straight ahead, his jaw tight, every movement deliberate. Those who knew him well recognized the resolve behind the calm. He wasn't here to entertain or to stir drama. He was here to tell a story, one he had clearly carried for a long time. Across the aisle, Diddy was unraveling. He tried to keep his face neutral, but the tension in his shoulders and the faint tremor in his hand gave him away. This wasn't just about being caught off guard. It was about what was coming. What secrets Bieber might finally bring into the light, and everyone in that courtroom knew the stakes had just skyrocketed.
Yeah, so, yeah. I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, you know, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, yeah, if she ever needs me,
Let's just say that Diddy didn't do anything to Justin Bieber. I'm just wondering, because of Justin Bieber's age at the time, did he have women, and when I say women, I'm talking about grown women, come over and, you know what I mean? Because that would still be bad. So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Another possibility could have happened.
Well, the defense here, and if it's a celebrity victim, even better.
See, here's the thing. You know, I think about it, and I'm sure he didn't want to. I guess the idea is, you know, not distract from the conversation that's being had, but to make a statement towards the end of the week, after opening statements, after or towards the conclusion of Cassandra Ventura's testimony. When he makes a statement confirming that there were people harmed by Combs, does that signify to you that he believes the prosecution's case, or does he think it's beyond the criminal case and based on the accusations we've seen in the civil arena?
I think it's probably the former. And like you said, the key part of that statement.
Bieber on the witness stand were simple, direct, and delivered without a trace of hesitation. I'm here to tell the truth. There was no anger in his tone, no theatrics. Just a calm, measured cadence that made each word land with purpose. He looked straight at the prosecution as he spoke, his voice steady, as if ensuring nothing could be misinterpreted. The courtroom was dead silent. Everyone leaned in, waiting to hear what one of the world's most famous entertainers had to reveal. For years, rumors had surrounded Diddy. Stories of exclusive parties, whispered accounts of questionable behavior, but no one had expected Bieber to confirm those whispers with such clarity. He began by describing his early relationship with the music mogul, a younger version of himself, hungry for guidance and belonging, awestruck by Diddy's influence and stature in the industry. I trusted him, Bieber said, his voice tinged with something deeper. Maybe regret, maybe revelation. He was deliberate with his words, often choosing to describe situations without diving into full detail. But those carefully placed omissions only amplified the tension. When asked directly about Diddy's infamous parties, Bieber, hesitated for just a moment before answering, "I've seen things at those parties that I can't forget." The line hung in the air, thick with implication. What exactly had he seen? What did things mean? The courtroom leaned in as one. Diddy, until that moment unmoving, visibly reacted. His jaw clenched and his eyes flicked to his lawyers, who had already begun frantically scribbling notes. That one line felt like a confirmation of everything people had suspected for years. Bieber pressed on, his voice unwavering as he spoke about the strange, unsettling nature of those parties. "Even as a teenager, I knew something wasn't right. There were times I felt like I didn't belong, like I shouldn't even be in the room," he said. He described an atmosphere of quiet control where questions were unwelcome and silence was expected. "There were a lot of people much older than me. You were just there. You didn't ask why." As he went on, the courtroom's energy shifted. People sat forward in their seats. Reporters scratched furiously at notepads, capturing every word. Diddy's legal team looked increasingly uneasy. Bieber was no longer speaking in vague terms. He was outlining the power dynamics at play, hinting at something deeper and darker. "It wasn't just a party," he said. "It was controlled. You didn't question it. You didn't say no." That line sparked a low murmur through the crowd. It was more than an accusation. It was a glimpse into a system. If Bieber's words were taken at face value, this wasn't just about Diddy's character. It was about a pattern of behavior, a culture of silence, and a manipulation of power that extended far beyond one individual. But it was what came next that truly shook the room. Bieber revealed how the experience haunted him long after. He spoke of years spent trying to understand what had happened, the toll it took on his mental health, and how it influenced decisions in both his career and personal life. For someone who had always symbolized global fame and success, the vulnerability in those admissions carried immense weight, and then the moment that shifted everything. "I wasn't the only one," Bieber said. "There were others, a lot of us, and we all knew it. No one said anything back then because we couldn't." That single sentence landed like a blow to the gut. The room froze. Even those who had been passively observing now sat in stunned silence. Diddy's reaction was immediate. His composure cracked. A sharp shake of his head, a clenched jaw, and what appeared to be a tense, whispered exchange with his lawyer. All signs of a man suddenly cornered. Bieber's calmness, in contrast, only made it worse. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His testimony was powerful because of what it revealed and how he revealed it, without drama, but with unmistakable conviction. By the time Bieber stepped down, the tone of the entire trial had shifted. His words hadn't just supported the prosecution's narrative, they had transformed it. Rumors had become statements, allegations had gained context, and Diddy, once untouchable in the courtroom, now looked visibly shaken and exposed. Bieber's final words weren't just compelling, they were case-altering.
People connected with Justin's life. We're told that he didn't really have any relationship with Diddy, that all of these videos are performative, and that Justin was friends with Diddy's two sons, but it really wasn't any kind of a relationship with Diddy.
Y'all feel what I'm feeling? Hold up. He said something very interesting in there. He said that Justin Bieber isn't a victim of Diddy's, but he didn't, a lot of times when you hear them talk, and I even have to throw the word out there, but he said that Justin Bieber's team said there are other victims. He didn't say allegedly, right? He didn't say there's allegedly other victims. Also, I'm just thinking, like, if Diddy is saying, or Justin Bieber is saying, his team is saying that Justin Bieber was friends with his kids, why isn't there any footage of that? You just see Justin Bieber and Diddy, Justin Bieber and Diddy. You don't see Justin Bieber. I'm just saying, I ain't saying those videos don't exist. I'm just saying I haven't seen them. Any footage of Diddy's kids and Justin Bieber hanging out, having fun together. To me, it sounded like Diddy was trying to take Justin Bieber under his wing, show him the industry, show him the ropes, show him all the stuff that comes with the fame.
Hugh nods to his legal team, a small, confident smile. To anyone watching, Diddy looked like a man ready to face the day, an image of calm, in-control composure. But the moment Justin Bieber took the stand, that carefully crafted facade began to crack. At first, Diddy remained stoic, leaning slightly back in his chair, his face a mask of neutrality. But for those paying close attention, the subtle signs of unease were already creeping in. A tightened jaw, the slight narrowing of his eyes. It was the look of someone who sensed the tide turning against him. As Bieber began to speak, Diddy leaned forward, his elbows now resting on the defense table. At first glance, it seemed he was listening intently, giving Bieber his full focus. But the small movements told a different story. His fingers tapped a restless rhythm on the table. When his lawyers whispered to him, he dismissed them with a wave, eyes fixed on Bieber. That calm exterior from earlier, it was unraveling with every word. Witnesses later described Diddy as visibly tense. His body language shifted noticeably with each revelation from Bieber. And when the pop star mentioned Diddy's infamous exclusive parties, the ones long buried in whispers and speculation, the change was undeniable. Diddy's jaw clenched hard. He looked down, pressing a hand to his lips, as if holding back. Something, words, emotion, or both. This wasn't just another court date. This was something else, something bigger. Bieber wasn't just affirming the rumors, he was amplifying them with credibility no one in Diddy's circle had anticipated. The ripple effect was instant. The defense team, once composed and in control, started to shift too. Hushed conversations became frantic whispers. Papers were shuffled with urgency. Their confidence, like Diddy's, was fading fast. Then came the turning point. "I wasn't the only one," Bieber said, turning to the jury. "There were others, a lot of us, and we all knew it. But we couldn't speak." It wasn't just a statement. It was a gut punch. That was when Diddy visibly broke. He muttered something under his breath, loud enough to draw attention, but too faint to catch clearly. His hand moved to his forehead, rubbing it slowly, a motion one courtroom observer described as a silent scream. The tapping fingers were now clenched fists. For a brief moment, it looked like he might speak, might explode. One of his attorneys placed a steadying hand on his arm to stop him. The energy in the courtroom shifted immediately. Reporters exchanged glances and scribbled frantically, capturing every detail of his unraveling. Observers began whispering to each other, their eyes flicking between Diddy and Bieber. This wasn't just drama. It was the breakdown of a public image. Diddy, long known for his control, his ability to dominate any room with a single glance, now looked like a man completely unprepared for the storm he was facing, and it showed. The defense team tried to recover, tried to act unfazed. They sorted through notes, avoided eye contact with the gallery, but the damage was done. Diddy's breaking point wasn't just noticeable, it was impossible to ignore. At one point, when Bieber described feeling like he had no choice but to go along with what was happening, Diddy shook his head sharply. The motion was small, but it stood out like a siren. It screamed frustration, denial, maybe even fear. And everyone in that courtroom saw it. As the day wore on, insiders began describing Diddy's reactions as the most telling development of the trial thus far. Was it guilt, panic, rage? The interpretations varied, but the intensity was undeniable. Some speculated that Diddy wasn't just upset at what was being said, he was furious that it was being said at all. Others believed his mask of invincibility had finally cracked under the weight of the accusations, exposing a vulnerability he had spent decades hiding. By the time court adjourned, the change in atmosphere was undeniable. Diddy exited the courtroom, quickly surrounded by his legal team who did their best to shield him from the media's gaze. But it was too late. The moment had already happened, and people wouldn't forget. Because here's the truth. When someone who's built an empire on control starts to show cracks, people don't just notice, they remember. And in this case, those cracks weren't just personal. They might prove pivotal to the trial's outcome. As the crowd filed out, the murmurs began. Had they just witnessed the moment the case shifted? The moment even Diddy couldn't recover from? Time would tell, but the damage was done.
I don't know who knew what. I don't believe this trial is going to sort through any of that whatsoever. I don't think we're going to be seeing big names either being named in this trial or even taking the stand. But what do you say to the argument somebody had to know something if these allegations are true?
Look, I think it's a fair argument, Jesse. This seems like it was one of the worst kept secrets in Hollywood people make with respect to Weinstein or Epstein or other abusers. This isn't your typical sexual assault that is behind closed.
We contacted Justin's reps and we kind of laid out what we found. And we said, look, this is what, multiple people have been telling us who were in his life, and are no longer, and also people who are in his life now. So we've talked to both. And I think that's really important because he's jettisoned so many people in his life. And they thought about it for a while and then contacted us back, and they actually gave us an on-the-record statement that Justin is not a victim of Diddy's. They said that there are other victims and they don't want to detract from them, but they said that Justin is not a victim